US President Donald Trump called communion his little cracker. He mispronounced the book of the Bible in front of 13,000 evangelical students. Religious leaders have excused him by comparing him with King David from the Old Testament, who committed crimes but was, quote, chosen by God. And at the end of 2025, he publicly, and by he I mean Trump, said, "I don't think there's anything going to get me into heaven. I think I'm not even heaven bound." And yet, Trump has won his second presidential election on the back of the most religiously mobilized voting in modern American history. How? Let's start with some interesting data. Religion in America isn't just a matter of faith. It's a voting bloc, and a big one. And Trump built an entire political identity just over it. In 2024, white evangelical and born-again Christians made up 27% of the entire American electorate, and 82% of them voted for Trump. That's up from 76% in 2020. Trump wasn't always like this, and we all know that. Trump was not even a regular churchgoer. There was this family leadership summit in Iowa in 2015. Trump said he had never asked God for forgiveness and referred to the communion as his, like I mentioned, little wine and little cracker. When asked to name his favorite Bible verse, he said, "It's very personal." And we know why, because he didn't know. And then at the Liberty University, in front of 13,000 students, he cited a verse from what he called the 2 Corinthians instead of the 2 Corinthians, drawing laughter from the crowd. And he then swore twice. For those who don't know, Corinthians are 2 letters written by Apostle Paul found in the New Testament. So why do voters back this man? The answer is that Trump doesn't need to be religious. He needs to fight for religious people, and that's all they need. And that is exactly how he's positioned himself. In November 2015, Trump had just a 39% favor rating amongst white evangelicals, and by 2024, that number climbed to 81%. That's a huge jump. How? By making evangelical concerns his priority. He did this by appointing the Supreme Court justices who overturned abortion rights, opposing the LGBTQIA++ protections, promising to restore prayers in public schools, and the list goes on. Now listen to this. Trump's religious fans have even gotten further, comparing him to King David, who again, for those who don't know, is a figure from the Old Testament. Religious leaders even said King David committed adultery and he was still chosen by God, so Trump can be too. And remember that AI-generated picture of himself as Jesus on Truth Social? This is the deal. Evangelicals get their policies, Trump gets his votes, so it's a win-win situation for both. And this all might help explain Trump's support for Israel, because this is where religion stops being a campaign tactic and starts becoming actual foreign policy. Support for Israel isn't just political stance. A significant portion of American evangelical Christians hold a belief that's called dispensationalism, the idea that the modern state of Israel is a fulfillment of prophecy from Bible, and that events in the Middle East are literally setting the stage for the second coming of Christ. Founder of Christians United for Israel, one of the most influential evangelical organizations in public politics, has argued for decades that Christians have a biblical obligation to support Israel. He's been calling for the U.S. to go on with Iran for the last 20 years. And Trump's ambassador to Israel, evangelical pastor Mike Huckabee, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, is a man who had previously supported Israel's right to annex the occupied West Bank. Even with Trump's with Iran, look at how he phrased it. He phrased it in religious language, kind of like using it as a tactic, calling the rescue of an airman as an Easter miracle and arguing that the strikes are God's blessings. In his 2016 Republican National Convention speech, Trump used the word God once. By 2024, he said it 9 times, and that change says everything. So this was never about personal faith. It was about politics, identifying the most powerful, most organized, and most reliably mobilized voting bloc in America and giving them exactly what they wanted. The Bible doesn't even matter to the US president. The votes, they do.